B. Dave Walters, actor, author, vampire. The truth may surprise you. It's previously on Tomorrow. All right. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
All right, everybody. This is the very first episode of our podcast. That is more of a chat podcast designed for nerd culture things, and hopefully, we're going to be getting more of the people in Cambodia and Phnom Penh on here. But pretty damn lucky that could be joined by B. Dave Walters today. So, hello.
Hello. How are you?
Doing pretty well, actually. Doing pretty well. It's been hot as hell here in Cambodia. I think we've been in like, I'm not really good with Fahrenheit still, even though I have a lot of American friends, and I'm still, I don't know, 40 degrees Celsius is around our average at the moment, which is pretty hot.
Right. Yeah. I think I can extract from the fact that that's a big number and you're in Cambodia that it must be pretty hot. Yes.
It is pretty damn hot, but it's all right today. So, yeah, I was very, very like shocked is not the right word. It's like somewhere between there and like a feeling of admiration, if there was a word for that. When I saw just on your Twitter post, and you said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. If anybody wants to interview me, just send me a message." And there it was. So that's speaks a lot of the person's character. I think that's really awesome.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. And I mean the way I look at it, if you're willing to take your time to talk, I'm willing to take my time to talk back, you know. So
That's
it is interesting connecting at this time because I'm a night owl. It's very late where I am. And I think it's like yeah, it's the morning where you are, so this works out perfectly.
now like 3:22 p.m. here, so it's pretty interesting.
It is 1:22 in the morning.
All
Yeah.
right.
And by the way, I hear one of my cats is starting to stir, so we may have other people joining into the conversation soon. Like if one of them decides they wants to jump up here, so if you hear a bell ringing, you'll know what that is.
No worries, no worries. That's pretty good. So, yeah, if you hear a meowing in the background, that's just likely my cat.
That is true. They'll get on here and just talk to each other. Be like, let me tell you what I think. Yeah. But
Awesome. So yeah, you've got the book coming out on the 20th, so it's in like 3 days. That's pretty awesome.
yeah. It is. It's the very tip of Sunday morning here, and the book drops this Wednesday. So yeah, it's a big deal. It's been a long time coming. It's something I've wanted for a long time, and now it is almost here. It is almost upon us. I'm incredibly excited.
That's so awesome, man. I mean, like, how many? How is it like a full arc? How many episodes are we looking at?
Five. It's a 5 issue arc. Yeah. Hopefully we're gonna get to revisit it sooner than later. But yeah, it's 5 issues. So
That's
and yeah, yeah, it's wild, and it's designed quite intentionally to hook in directly to the events of the summer event of the next thing that's happening. Um, so they're going to get very much caught up in a sea of events, just like there was Stream of Many Eyes last year, and then there was the Tomb of Annihilation before that. So this will lead directly into all of that, and
oh, wow.
yeah, it's gonna have a lot of nods to the history of the Forgotten Realms and some past adventures and some past stories, and also have some Easter eggs for the future that I think about a year from now, you can go back and read the whole thing and be like, oh, that was that. I'm like, yeah, that was, and like, oh wow, I'm like, yeah, that's that too. Yeah, so
That's pretty damn cool, and I think it's really awesome that, I mean, obviously you work for Wizards doing some writing and everything as well, and now you're doing the comic, and that's going to tie into like actual canon things. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
I don't actually work for Wizards. I'm not a Wizards employee. But yeah, this is going to be a canonical story. This is which is part of the reason why it's set in the Moonshay Isles, and I wanted to do that on purpose because I apologize. I'm battling a sniffle that's coming on, and I keep managing to like get it just a little far off, and it just wants to come through. Um, I set it in the Moonshae Isles because I knew there's some other parts of the realms like Waterdeep or Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter where I not only have so many stories been told in those places, but that I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to really have as meaningful an impact as I would like on that. Like I can't burn Waterdeep to the ground,
Yeah.
unless yeah, it's like it's not gonna happen unless maybe I could do it as long as it got like miracled back into existence by the end. So
Yeah.
I picked the Moonshine Isles because it's a canonical place. It is actually the setting of the very first Forgotten Realms story ever told. I didn't know that when I picked it. I was quite
I
a
didn't.
ways.
Wow.
Yeah, Dark Walker on Moonshae. In fact, it was a fantasy novel that was written, and TSR acquired it and set it in the Forgotten Realms.
Okay.
That's so. It is like the very first thing. And there's nods to that story. There's nods to the Dark Walker on Moonshae trilogy all throughout this one, and yeah, it's been neat to be able to leave an impact on the world, to be able to like can add a link to the chain of continuity, basically, that goes back 50 years. So
For sure. I mean, that's really, it's impressive. I think things that happen like that are wonderful when you can have that sort of impact on people. Like, I mean, obviously, so you are Victor Temple on LA by Night, which is
uh,
fucking amazing. I'm just gonna say it. It's really good. Love it.
that is
It's
true.
really awesome.
Yep.
And I think what impresses me as just an overall fan of like the you know World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade, and everything like that is how the events that were from the video game that became
Bloodlines. Yeah.
a whole phenomenon have become canon, which is
Yep.
it's wonderful when there can be those sort of crossovers like that. It makes people feel much more invested, and that what you were playing is not separate from everything else.
Yeah. Well, same thing. It's wild to be in a place where I'm actually having a lasting impact in these worlds that I've spent so many hundreds and hundreds, possibly thousands of hours of my life in. Where again, everything we do in LA by Night is canonical. They're putting out lore sheets for all of us so that we can be in other people's campaigns if they want any of our characters, um, which is bananas. Seeing the Victor Temple lore sheet like in print was like, holy crap, wow, that's cool. Yeah, in with Bloodlines especially, I think people are really enjoying it because there's a lot of things that come up in Bloodlines that of course you as the neophyte witness and
Yeah,
participate in. So you have a lot of behind the scenes information that our characters on LA by Night don't possess. Like I don't want to spoil anything, but that's
right.
like why every time I start talking about wanting to talk to Jeanette because I think Therese Vorman is betraying us all, a not insignificant portion of the fandom is like, "Whoa, whoa," whereas,
My
you
character
guys
doesn't
know
know
things
that.
that we don't know.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
know, yeah, but it's true. It does create a more, you feel invested in events that you yourself feel like you played through and you
yeah.
yourself have watched play out over time. And then to see those things come to life in a new and different way, like to see Nines Rodriguez brought to life, to see Therese
Wow.
Vorman brought to life, to see
I
Baron Abrams brought to life. Yeah,
Sure. I am. I'm really looking forward to actually getting to watch season two, because I've been watching it on YouTube and haven't gotten to like Twitch and Alpha and all that type of stuff like that. Which I should really get a subscription, because it just makes sense at this point. All the things that I watch are there. I don't generally watch television anymore. I just
right.
watch shows that people content create, which is pretty great. I think it is definitely a way of the future, and it is now. Um,
Yeah.
um, anyway, when I saw that again on Twitter that like they actually brought in Nines Rodriguez, I was like, "Whoa, that's
Yep.
amazing!" You get to see,
Luis Carrazzo. I apologize if I said your name wrong, Luis. But yeah, he is astonishing because he is Nines. He
nice.
is Nines, and it's perfect. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So,
And
yeah,
Whitney does a really great job as Therese. Also, as doing Therese Warman, she
yeah,
really nails the layers and complexity of that particular character. So it's wild. It's quite a thing to see, and if in my humble opinion, very much worth the $5. And I don't know if you have Amazon Prime there, if that's a thing in Cambodia, but anybody who's got Amazon Prime, you can get Twitch Prime as part of your subscription, and then you have it for free, basically.
I remember like ages ago seeing something. I think it was in one of the beginning things in Critical Role where Marisha Ray was talking about that. She was saying, "Oh, you just need to get this, and then you can get Twitch basically coupled in with it." So that's not a bad thing. We have Netflix, so we can probably get
Mhm.
Amazon Prime. I'll actually have a look into that. There's a couple of shows which am really excited about. Just as a giant nerd myself, is the Wheel of Time is coming to Amazon, and that's
Yep.
not too far away.
Yeah. Then the Lord of the Rings is in development also, so it's a good time to be into this kind of thing, really, where people with a lot of money are throwing at it because, well, quite frankly, they've just come to realize that it's profitable, that it's valuable, that
Mhm.
it's the reason why the superhero movies are seeing the booming renaissance that they have is that the people who grew up on that content are now in the positions to make the decisions to both make these things and take these stories seriously, which
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to do in my own way with Dark and Wish, the comic book.
Yes.
And then I mean, it is far more Lord of the Rings than it is the Saturday morning cartoon. Like it is hardcore and intense, and it's supposed to be a sweeping fantasy epic, which
Nice.
hopefully I nail.
Yeah, I mean, just from that first part that I saw there, I'm really invested so far. I'm really invested. It was, I've got to say, the twins are probably my favorite so far, even though they barely said anything. I'm quite invested to seeing what happens with those two.
You know, I appreciate it because I judge vampire the same way. So and with with this comic, I judge where if every single person is someone's favorite,
Hmm.
you're probably doing a good job. You
Yeah,
know, like these people like that one, and these people like that one, and these people like that one. You know, but there's something for everybody. Then you've
yeah,
probably hit all the right notes. You know, um, if you have something where it's like, no, I only like that one person, and the rest of them are kind of expendable, then you need to reevaluate. So I appreciate that. I'm very proud of the twins, and I can tell you I'm working actively on the streaming tie-in series for this, and I already know who I want to play them. And if it all works out, it is going to be pretty much perfect. Yeah.
that'll be pretty amazing, man. It's there's something you said earlier there is right. It's such a nice time to be alive with all of these things happening and that they are
Oh yeah.
possible. Just the scope of story that I find people can tell within RPGs
Yeah.
is ridiculous. It's really really ridiculous. Like we just with our channel and the thing that we stream, our D&D game that we stream and everything like that. It was we had this moment where my character is kind of like sort of like werewolf people, and
Mm,
his but the good kind. And then when if something drives them insane, then they become regular kind of werewolves basically. And there was this whole event
right.
where we had to go to a temple and try and see if they were there, and scouting everything around, see that everyone has gone crazy and they're basically like full-on werewolves now. And there was this moment, this scene between myself and my friend Fleur and her character. So the characters, like we were sitting there, basically on the beach or whatever, and so she ended up casting locate person because she wanted to see if my dad was there. My character's dad was there, and then she ended up like zooming in on him and saw that he was also a werewolf. So she comes to me on the beach. We have this emotional conversation, and me as a person, as a human being, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm physically crying over something that doesn't necessarily actually exist. And I say to her in character, if I can't kill them, I need you to do it for me. And both Fleur and I were like crying and shaking during this thing. It's such a emotional way of doing things.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's and those emotions are real, you know. I mean, to a certain extent it's just a game. Sure, it's just a game, but I mean, it's just like, to me, it's almost more akin to acting, especially streaming, um in the sense that you're still put on this role and you're still putting on this facade, and if you're doing it well, you're still bringing every single bit of yourself into it that you would otherwise.
Hmm.
Like, naturally in my life, I'm not really much of a crier. I only cry happy tears. Like, I cry when I'm excited. Like, if I see like a movie trailer I really love, I'll cry. But like, any other emotions, like, not really. And in season 2 of We're Alive, that there was a particularly emotional episode we'd had, where we'd all gone on various vision quests. That's my character, is like a quasi shaman, and I have the plant medicine, which is useful for, very vital plot exposition. And
Yeah,
we'd
we
gone on a
ended up
vision
using some of
quest.
that in our campaign too.
Yeah. And Anjali Bhamani and Xander Jeanneret both had like these like ridiculously powerful experiences. And then it rolled around to me, and even as I was watching them, I was kind of like, well, doesn't really matter what I'm about to say, because I can't go there with it. And I started doing mine, and I found myself getting emotional and myself crying, and I'm like, wow, that's not a thing that happens, but here we are. And it's the same thing. It's just, if you can get yourself deep enough into that place, you're going to react how you react. And I think that's the key, not just to giving a decent performance in, or
Mm,
playing these games and making it worthwhile, but just telling a good story in general.
I think so. I think that emotional investment and the connection is some of the most important things we can really do as anyone wanting to create anything, really. I mean, if you don't have some kind of effect there, then it's you know, maybe you got to tweak some things.
Well, and I think also, I think the audience knows. I think, a lot of people are trying to figure out what the secret sauce is so you can bottle it, and, why Critical Role is Critical Role, or
Mm,
things like that. And they set out to duplicate it, and all the pieces are there, but it just doesn't work. And
mhm,
that's the real difference. It's that authentic, genuine investment. It's like when you get somebody that would have been doing it for free of their own free will, that would have been paying you to let them do it, like, that's when the actual love is what comes through. That's why Jason's so good at Vampire, because he like actually really loves the game, and has been neck deep in it for a very long time, and actually cares about what's going to happen in every little thing. um and that, that intricacy and attention to detail, and being steeped in the lore, uh is what makes the story work the way it does, which is, fantastic.
yeah,
And then I come along. I'm probably the second most senior vampire player, because I've been playing it from the beginning of all 25 years there, and
nice.
it's the same thing. Like we were talking earlier, I'm constantly parsing what Victor doesn't know. Because I'm all like, I know, say it, and I'll go out of my way to say things occasionally that I know are incorrect because he doesn't know. So
Yeah,
it's fun opportunities to layer all those things in.
that is pretty enjoyable, I must admit. So as far as Victor goes, when you guys were sitting down and getting ready to create your characters, or however it went, uh, what made you really decide on yeah, I'm going to be a venture.
Oh, I
I'm
had
gonna
to.
be a venture, and he's
Oh,
going
I
to be
had to. No, Ventrue's my clan. It so happens the very first game I played on stream ever was in December 2017. I did a vampire one shot for Satine Phoenix's charity, Charity 20,
nice.
and we did a vampire one shot. And Jason was the storyteller, and I played in that, and I played a gangrel. I never played a gangrel because Ventrue is my clan, but it was an opportunity to do it, and so I went all in. Dressed up, did a voice, the whole 9 yards,
Nice.
and afterwards, fast forward to this story. It was like, so you're going to do a venture gangrel again? And I was like, well, I could, But in the back of my mind, I'm always going to wish I'd done a Venture, because I knew then that this was going to be lore, that we were going to be launching V5, that in many ways we were going to be the new faces of the game.
Sure. Yes.
And no matter how good a job I'd done in anything else, I would have always known. Oh, but I wanted to be an Venture. you know, and it's funny, we moved around all through, like all the way to the week of. Like I won't tell you which person it was, but somebody redesigned their character completely the week of the show. Like
Nice.
we went live on Friday, one of them got rebuilt from the ground up that Monday. So
I have a
uh,
feeling it might be Erica, but that's just be
like I said, I can neither confirm
not
nor
gonna
deny any of this. Yeah,
guess.
that's not my business. When you interview the rest of the cast, if one of them chooses to volunteer, that so be it. But I'm
That would
not
be
going to out anybody.
that would be awesome. I'm not gonna lie, that'd be great.
But
Yeah,
it's
I mean, it's funny that, like, the way you say, like, Venture is my clan, because in our game that we're playing now, I'm playing Toreador, and the whole concept was, because we started, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago with my buddy. It was like a couple of us were like, we really want to play vampire, and he says, okay, cool, I'll run it for you. And I'm like, okay, what if I could play myself
hmm
but as a vampire? And I said, why not? Because we're playing it in our city. So I went to the Toreador thing. It's like, I kind of like think Toreador, Tremere. Let's see, I'm going to go for Toreador. But it's it's funny how you can sometimes tell people's, like, what they would play in certain games, or like very very quickly. A new person who's just joined us for our second arc with our vampire story that we're running, which will only be out, like, in a long time, because I'm just releasing the first arc now, episode by episode. But I met him at my friend's birthday party very, very quickly, and I hadn't gotten his name yet. But for some reason, I saw the dude, and I'm like, you feel like a Bruja. And then my friend Don was like, oh, this is James. He's the one who wants to be the Bruja in the new game. I'm like, okay.
Yep.
It's weird yeah, it's kind of weird how that is, and I don't really know why.
I've played. I mean, now I've played like a lot of characters. I mean, I did a stream on Savings Throw Show earlier today. We did a Breakfast Club theme stream where I would play five just tonight and today in the one stream. But of all of them, Victor is the most like me. Like if I were to become a vampire, like I mean, his life would more or less probably end up being my life. Like after I've been at it a little while, yeah. Which again makes it very easy to play him because I'm always like super clear on what he do.
Mm,
Um, whereas some other characters are not that. And I actually there's some that I like. I'd played Chateau for two, and We're Alive for 2 seasons by the time we even started developing Vampire. And
okay.
I intended initially for Victor to be very, 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 very different from him.
Okay.
And in the first couple of episodes, he really is. And then right about the time that I became Baron, like their paths sort of started to like align more. uh, I mean, We're Alive again. Just for anybody who's not aware, it's We're Alive Frontier. It's on Alpha. It's gonna be coming to Twitch. It is a post-apocalyptic zombie horror survival show. So we're 20 years after the apocalypse. I think almost 30 years after the apocalypse. Um, and it's just humanity is reformed, kind of. They're
Mm,
not technically zombies because they're biological creatures. It's more like a I Am Legend. Think about if it was more if we're set in the world of I Am Legend.
okay.
And my character has no powers and obviously has been through a lot more. But I find the circumstances and situations that I end up like presented with or find myself in end up being like very similar between the two. Um, you know, but I mean I think it's interesting like testing your limits and things because I think to a certain extent um we're limited by the tools in our toolbox. Some people have bigger toolboxes than others, of course.
Yeah.
You take somebody like Daniel Day Lewis, it's a freaking Home Depot worth of tools. Whereas somebody like Mark Wahlberg, he's the same dude every time. So
That's
I'm
kind of true. Like different movies, but it's always Mark Wahlberg.
he's the reluctant badass. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He didn't really want to do this, but now he has to. Yeah,
yeah.
that's him. And I'm to the point now that I'm really like consciously, actively trying to like, how much different can I make this? Like, how far out of what I would normally do can I do?
Hmm.
Um, because I mean, I think that's enjoyable. You know.
It's a difficult thing as well. When I first started playing like tabletop RPGs, like for years I was into like growing up things like well, let's start with Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate 2, and Neverwinter Nights, and all of those things. And then I always wanted to play the tabletop version, but just never was able to. It was only here in Cambodia that I met people that were hosting the game, and I made my first character. So super investing. He's still to this day, he's my favorite. He was a Asimar sorcerer, and I had this. The backstory just came like that out of
Mhm.
thin air. It's like there's this fully fledged person, and yeah, I love playing. It was very, very easy to play Jelen. And then the second character actually was a game that my friend Ben was running, and so he was running. He's currently DMing our campaign that was on the channel at the moment. But then I made this Drow warlock by the name of Trixie, and again, she was very, very easy to play because it's like these sort of high charisma characters, and then they go out and they get things done in this sort of way. Um, and then when we came down to sort of this campaign, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to do something completely different that I wouldn't ever really play, and play a different kind of person. So I ended up being a ranger, and like charisma pretty low, intelligence pretty low, that type of thing. And it took me a long time to actually get into the dude. Really, really long time. When you're sort of playing against your strengths or whatever, it takes you a long time to get into
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, especially streaming, I think that can be very useful. I mean, it's useful at home also because, again, how many bards can you play? The answer is several, but there's still, there's still a limit. And again,
it.
I like the challenge because I know I've absolutely got my preferences. Like again with Venture, the reason why I wanted to do that is I think Malkavian is probably the clan that is played wrong the most, but a very close second is Ventru, you know? And I wanted to show um, that there's another way to look at it. I mean, I think if we'd been a Camarilla coterie, because there was a chance we were going to, I mean, we went
Okay.
back and forth about whether or not we were going to be Anarch or Camarilla.
Yeah.
Um, he would have been slightly different. Um, but not that different, honestly. It, I think also that part of that is the core spirit of V5
Hmm.
is in many ways the Camarilla were the good guys, I say in air quotes, of
Yeah.
old Vampire. Um, Understanding that there were no good guys, the Camarilla were the good guys, the Anarchs were the bad guys, and the Sabbat were just like the horrific monsters that you do not speak of.
The real bad
Yeah.
guy.
Now the pendulum has swung somewhat in V5, and the Anarchs are the good guys, and the Camarilla are the bad guys, and the Sabbat are the monsters that you do not speak of, because surely they've all been eradicated, right? Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Surely we've seen the last of the Sabbat, right?
mm,
Um, Jason and I were talking about this exact thing. I'm like, they're an infectious disease. It just takes one. You just need one to live. One, you
yeah.
know? And you're up to your ears in them again, in no time flat.
I mean, the
So
thing is, like, technically speaking, they weren't wrong. You know what I mean? They weren't wrong. Just the way they went about their shit was wrong.
well, I mean, also if you really look at it, there's not a huge difference between any of the traditions. Not really. The Camarilla and the Anarchs are almost interchangeable now, as you've seen Victor say overtly. But even the Sabbat, even when they're like, embrace the beast, be free, be yourself, I'm like, you still got your bishops and your structure. You still got a masquerade because you still don't just run into a shopping mall and murder everybody.
It's
You're,
just not
you're
that.
like, you're still doing the same thing.
Yeah,
Well, because at the end of the day, all the kindred are still constrained by the same beast. And
yeah,
that is why no matter what they try to do, you always come back to certain notes you're gonna hit every time.
for sure. Now, you played Vampire for quite a long time. How was it making the switch over from, like, I don't know what the last incarnation you played, if you're playing the 20th anniversary edition or something, to V5? Like, how different did you find the mechanics?
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a good job of facelifting the old game. Actually, hang on one second. Sorry, had a big giant snarf come on me. Sorry. I think they did a very good job of facelifting the old game and updating it for modern audiences. But making it feel the same. I really like the blood dice mechanic. I really like that. I like that over Blood Pool because it takes it from a resource management game and turns it into a risk management game. Um, which I think is really good. I won't give you any spoilers, but there's a I do something in the season finale of this
Mhm.
episode, and it put me to three hunger immediately, and I had to like keep thinking, all like with everything I did, I was like, well, wait a second, I can't like risk rinsing right now. There's another something else that happens very early in season two that put me at four hunger, and I was like, I can't freak out right now, like I have to just like figure out another solution. Um, which would not really have been a thing if it was just a matter of like, well, let's spin this point, spin that point, spin this point, spin that point.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
that element of it, that element of tension would not be there.
Okay.
And I like that. If I had to wager a guess, I don't have any like keener insight into this than than you do. But if I had to wager a guess, the next iteration of werewolf, the next iteration of mage, when they get around to that,
Mhm.
um, I think you're going to see that with all of it. There's going to be rage dice, there's going to be paradox dice. I mean, like that's probably going to be the new way it goes because, quite frankly, it works. Um, I,
Yeah, I mean, we were discussing amongst ourselves, like, okay, we could try and facelift the characters through V5 and everything. Some of the problems that we had. Number one is that one of our players is Lasombra, and I don't believe that's in the V5 book, not
it
yet.
is now. It wasn't. They're in the new Anarch book.
Okay, all right, cool. And
No,
then
are they in the new Camarilla book? Well, no, they're in the new Camarilla book because the Ministry is in the Anarch book, but it's out now. Now they're La Sombra rules.
the Assamites as well, because one of the other players is an Assamite, so that was one
So
of
the Banu Hakim are back in the plot line.
the.
They've joined the Camarilla, but they have not been statted out yet, to my
Okay.
knowledge.
Yeah, that was one of the things. One of the things was just like, okay, they aren't there yet, and we have these clans. And the other thing, actually living in Cambodia, we don't have game hobby stores yet, and this is a large part of why I wanted to start this whole channel in the first place, is to get these things more popular. So hopefully, we can get the hobby stores, we can have the more conventions, we can have all this type of stuff like that. So we can't really just go out and, okay, these dice are being held, so I can go and buy these dice.
Right.
Ordering on Amazon for us is like, it's really expensive for the delivery, and a lot of items just do not ship here. There is
Yeah.
like another option with a guy that can sort of order the stuff, but then your stuff takes a month, and it's still like you're still paying quite a large shipping fee, but it's not as much as you would pay directly through Amazon. So there are constraints. There are
Right.
some constraints. Like, I don't know if you've ever played Fate. Have you ever played any Fate games?
hmm I'm
That
familiar
is,
with Fate. Yep.
I would say that has become my favorite system. I think for sure my favorite system, hands down, just because you can make any story you want, anything, any characters, any story. It's great. But I was lucky enough that one of our friends was back in the States, and he ended up I said to him, man, just buy me some real fate dice because I'm tired of using regular D6s and just counting which ones are the pluses and minuses. But I
Yeah.
haven't. So it's a thing. So there are constraints to living here, but it's growing. It's growing very well. Some of the universities here, almost every year, they have like one or two cosplay events, and people really they go all out. We went last year just to have a look at it, and some people really amazing costumes for it just being, and I use in quotations, just Cambodia because we're
Sure.
South Asia. We're not like Japan. We're not Taiwan. Whatever. We're
Mhm.
Cambodia. So it's developing quickly, but still. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's you can never tell who's going to be into what too, because I have an anomalously large following in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur. For I'm just like, all right, that's cool. Hey, everybody, you know. Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, obviously, the places have their own cultures, and obviously,
Mhm.
there's some parts of the world where those cultures have a tighter grip on day to day life than other places, of course.
Mhm.
But I think humans being humans, there's going to be geeks everywhere, So,
100%,
yeah,
100%.
just have to give them a chance. Yeah, just have to give them a chance to realize that these things are out there, and give them a chance to realize that they're not weird for liking them. You
For
know, when
sure. And, there's a place here in Phnom Penh that somebody opened up maybe 2 or 3 years ago called the Puzzle Chamber. That's the
Mhm.
closest thing we have so far because it's a board games cafe and there's tons and tons of board games and the staff gets sent to like Malaysia to actually learn how to play these board games so they can teach people how to play them. They've got a VR room and everything. They were super happy to let us host for a one shot. Like in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if I can get them to understand Dungeons and Dragons, maybe I can start Adventures League there and that type of stuff. It would
yeah,
be, you know. So there
yeah,
are these people out there. My day job is being a teacher. So
mhm,
I was teaching third grade, and I teach other things as well. And for summer school last year, I actually ended up playing, running my kids through Curse of Strahd, and
mm,
I think that's something that I've seen a few articles on here and there, and I'm glad it's becoming more popular and prevalent. Is the idea of using these RPGs to actually educate, and
that's actually what I'm doing tomorrow, is going to a game shop to teach D&D to kids. Yep. I'm taking my youngest with me also, and we're gonna help them join the fellowship just tomorrow. Yep.
that's awesome. That's really really cool because it's like there's very few ways that a person can learn in a very safe, organic kind of way about conflict resolution, about
Yep.
forethought, about planning, about
Yep.
morality, about the correct use of power, etc. Not many things, and it also helps you with math. you
Yeah.
know, basic math is good.
Well, yeah. And I think also, I think the appeal of these games, and why they will never go away, no matter how prevalent video games. Well, I mean, video games are all already prevalent, but I mean, no matter how far technology advances to the starriest heights of VR technology, to when we full blown have holodecks, we will still have these tabletop RPGs for one reason, and one reason only. It is an opportunity to participate in a narrative where your actions have an impact, where you can be at cause in something, where you
Mhm.
can do something and it matters. A lot of people don't get that in life, and even in video games, you get it artificially because you're on rails.
Yeah,
In a tabletop RPG, you can go anywhere and you can do anything, and you as far as long as you've got a good storyteller, of course, who can roll with you. There's no limits on which way the story goes or whatever happens. Like again today, we did this Breakfast Club crossover and Saving Throw show. It was a fundraiser. So at every donation tier, we unlock new things that we would have to do basically. And it ended up like we're the Breakfast Club. And then it's like, all right, you're the Breakfast Club, but you got superpowers. Okay, it's the Breakfast Club, but you got superpowers. Then you have Bill and Ted's Time Machine, and now there's a zombie invasion, and it's like all these things just kept getting tacked on, um, in a way that no video game will ever be able to approximate ever.
I
You
I
know,
agree. I
um,
agree. It's just so diverse, so diverse, and you can't you can't fake that. You can't fake those genuine sort of moments when you do have a good GM or storyteller or whatever, and then they're rolling with you and they just change something on the fly. It's like, okay, this is happening now.
and I will tell you though, just in my experience, the simplest way to get somebody into it though is you say like, hey, do you like Lord of the Rings? Even what's your favorite show, even if it's not a fantasy show. Um, and it's like they're like, okay, I like Lord of the Rings, and you're like, cool. Who's your favorite character? Oh, I like Legolas. I'm like, cool. All right, you're Legolas now. You're in the woods. You see some footprints. They look like orc footprints. What'd you like to do? They're like, oh, I follow them. You see an orc up ahead. He's like bent over, like he's like killing a deer or something. Well, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to shoot him, because of course they want to shoot him. They always do. That's when you hand them 1d6 and you're like, roll this. If you get above 4, you hit him. Roll. You hit him. Oh, he's hurt. And then you make it this whole big dramatic thing, and
Yeah.
they're hooked. They're in. You know, the key to getting new players into the game is getting them playing the game as fast as you possibly can.
Mm,
The more front loading there is, the more there's talking about rules, the more there's going through books and all that stuff, you lose people. Once they have an idea what it actually is, then they're like, oh, okay. Now, so wait, my character could do this. Oh, there's fireball people. Oh, okay. Wait, then you've got them. You got them.
I think that's one of the reasons why I do enjoy Fate as a system, is because like the game literally starts when you're sitting down with a group of friends and you're spitballing about what is our universe like. We're
Hmm.
making this right now. Who are the bad
Hmm.
guys in the universe? What do you think you do? How do you guys know each other? How's it interacted? So it's kind of like you start playing before you're starting the story, because you're building people, you're building worlds, you're building everything. So yeah, getting people just straight into it is for sure a thing, because I was trying to help people make like D&D characters without apps and everything like that. And it's like, okay, now you've got to do this, and you've got to add that, and you've got to do this. Now you choose your weapons. It's like an hour and a half later, you have your character. Now you can start, you know?
Yep. Yep. No, you just got to be like, what do you want to do? I want to be a Minotaur barbarian with an axe. Like, great. I'd play all the way through the first session, just like randomly being like, roll it. That's enough. Roll it. That's a miss. And then like, again, once they're into it, you're like, cool. Well, let's go ahead and build, Thrognar the rest of the way now.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the experience, is what it is. Because a lot of people are easily overwhelmed. A lot of people are easily bored. Not even somebody who has it in them to become the biggest theory crafter out there
Mm.
is almost certainly not going to start there. And there is a big push in a lot of game design now that collaborative storytelling element. Hill Folk is like that, where you build a universe together.
Okay.
Vampire V5, the new rule is you start with the coterie. You actually build the coterie before you build the individual vampires, which is
Oh,
interesting.
wow.
Um, yeah, and you establish your coterie and you establish your purpose first, um, which actually affects your the other resources that you're going to have access to when you build your characters, which is neat. Um, there's another one who's it's escaping me right now. I'm sure I'm going to come back to it, and it's just like interrupt you in mid sentence and tell you. But I think that's neat though. To be able to carve out that almost chunk of collaborative reality together.
It is a beautiful thing for sure. I really enjoy it, and I think just when you've done that with people, and you do have those moments where you've story told, if you run a game or whatever, then after that session, people, your friends are like, oh, I'm so excited. I don't know what's going to happen next time. Ah, this was amazing. That's a beautiful thing to experience.
Well, they're invested in it because now it's theirs.
Yeah.
Like you don't just throw the story at them. You know, um, the moment that you give them 3 doors and make one of them locked and they're hooked. You know what I mean? You're just like they're hooked. Yeah. Because and again, this is kind of a speech that I always give. That I think the most important thing to remember is that it is a collaborative art.
Mm,
It is something you are doing together, even in the most quote unquote restrictive systems. Um, Even something like D&D Fifth Edition, which I love, of course. Um, there's still nothing stopping you from saying like, all right, you walk into a room, you tell me what you see. You know, your mom walks into the room. What does she look like? And just keep like tossing it back to them. You know,
yeah.
because what you'll find that will keep people off their phones. That will keep people right there and engaged and listening to every single thing, because again, they're helping construct it with you, and they're helping participate in creating this reality. I mean, and that even works with things like a Curse of Strahd, or things that are coming
Mhm.
like right out of the box. That it's like, all right, you're in a dark, spooky area of the forest. Tell me what it looks like, you know, and then let them lay it on you.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very cool way of doing things. I mean, yeah, I'm just thinking about like moments and stuff that people have role playing. I mean, what would you consider to be like one of your top moments if you had to
The
think?
season finale of We're Alive Frontier, season one, season finale of We're Alive Frontier, 100%. I won't tell you what happens. Hopefully, you'll get Twitch, and it's coming to Twitch, and when that happens, you'll see it. Um, it is the equivalent of hitting a hole in one and having it on tape for the entire world to see. Like the ending of season one of We're Alive Frontier is absolutely bananas.
No.
Um, I think second to that was when Victor became Baron. Um, when I threw that Hail Frickin' Mary and it worked. I was
I
like,
honestly
whoa,
thought
yeah.
Isaac was gonna do something really horrible for a while.
You know, no spoilers. I won't say anything. Just no comment. No comment.
Fair
Well,
enough.
I will tell you this though, because this isn't a spoiler because it didn't happen. But when that game, that session, when
Yeah.
we were at break, I went up to Jason and I was like, "If I kill Abrams, will it ruin the story?" And he's like, "I don't know if you can kill Abrams." And I was like, "That's not what I'm asking." I said, "If I kill Abrams, will it ruin the story?" And he's like, "No." And I was like, "Cool, cool, cool, cool." So I sat back down at the table. Like, I was like, if the opportunity presents itself, I'm going to notch this dude. And then things played out the way they played out. And it was academic. Yeah.
That's
So,
pretty awesome. Oh no, I like that a lot.
mhm.
Um, so we've spoken a lot about Vampire now, and we've spoken some about D&D and the artwork and such. But I think I just want to get some of your, like, how did you end up getting involved in the first place with like Geek and Sundry, for example? Like, where did that start?
I introduced my buddy Damien Poitier and Jason Charles Miller because I knew the two of them and I introduced them to each other. And Jason got Damien in to do Signal Boost a couple years back. And then they were on Foreververse together with Ivan Van Norman and Trisha and Amy Vorpal.
Okay.
And at that time, I was still like working full time, going into the office every day. And I gotta tell you, kind of in the back of my mind, I was like, "Well, this sucks. Like, you guys wouldn't even know each other if not for me, and you're like going to like play games all the time." But I was just like, whatever. It's cool. It's cool. Whatever. And I was like, it was still like doing my thing, and like and I was doing a lot of panels and conventions because I've been doing panel appearances talking about like the um spiritual themes and like comics and media and kind of like the like metaphorical significance of these things. And
Okay.
so Damien hit me up one day and he's like, "I've got an idea for a show called Ask Your Black Geek Friend that I want to pitch to Geek and Sundry." And I was like, "Stop right there. I'm in." And so that was Wednesday. We shot the pilot Saturday. That Monday they told us they wanted the show.
Nice.
And that was in like March, and it was August before we actually went up because of just some production stuff. So Ask Your Black Geek Friends started in August. I was on that Chair D20 thing that December. Then I guested on Saving Throw Show was the next thing, and then I got cast in We're Alive Frontier at Inkwell Society at the same time. I was an alternate for We're Alive. There was a real chance I wasn't going to get on, which is why I'm only in like the last 2 episodes of season 1.
Okay.
Because the plan for that show, there were 6 cast members and 3 alternates, because it was supposed to be this super hardcore bloodbath,
Right.
and someone does die fairly early in the show, and it is like shocking and amazing and astonishing because it's not at all what you would expect in a show like this. Um, and it's just like, I mean, that's this show. That's this show, you know. And So then I did finally get my chance, which again, I'm being vague on purpose because anybody hearing this, if you haven't watched Where Life Frontier, you should. It is astonishing. I
I
would watch it even if I wasn't on
definitely get into watching it.
it. Well, the advantage of We're Alive is it is the most cinematic of one of these shows produced ever. Like in terms of like camera angles and the sound effects and the sets and the practicals and all the stuff we were able to do is mind-boggling. And when you take something like D&D, even to a lesser extent Vampire, but definitely D&D, there is a presumption of success. I
Okay.
mean, if you fight the dragon, you're going to beat the dragon. I mean, not always. People die. Sometimes whole parties wipe. But for the most part, if you're being confronted with a challenge, you are equal to or greater than that challenge. For the most part.
Yeah.
We're Alive is not like that. Where there is no presumption of success at all. So every single time you fight the infected, it's scary. Every single time you're in a gunfight, it's scary. Because anything can kill you like at any time, and that's a one-way trip. And but because of that, like winning and surviving and making it through is like it's like the craziest rush ever. Um, and then after We're Alive, then I did Theogony at Kairos, which was my D&D show. We only did 6 episodes, including the Gen Con finale, which I wished we'd got to spend more time in that world with those characters. But I'm gonna get to scratch that itch soon with this D&D stream. And Then there was Vampire, then there was We're Life season 2, then there was Vampire, and a bunch of like guesting and things sprinkled all through there, and then we're pretty much here. But it's
That's
all happened fast. It's from August 2017 to now, so a
that's
little
amazing.
under about a year and a half. Which it's wild because everybody's like, I can't believe you've done as much as you've done in this time. And I'm like, because I knew exactly what I was trying to do. I knew when I set foot in Geek and Sundry the very first time, I knew exactly what I was trying to accomplish. And so I had a plan in my head. I was able to follow that plan and it worked
Mm.
out. So,
That's something that yeah, I guess as a word of advice for myself and for anyone who listens to this. So you know, coming from like being a person with an idea. So my idea after like getting into these shows and watching them and learning how to play and everything, my idea was it would be nice if Cambodia had something like that, and I would like to
yep.
do. So then
Hmm.
I went out to getting a camera, getting a mixer, trying to learn sound, and trying to do like the video editing and everything by myself. And I'm still not really good at it. But like, if you are trying to do something like that by yourself, and I have the people that like obviously Ben wrote the story for the campaign for D&D, and I was storytelling for the vampire thing, and now Aaron is running our next D&D campaign and stuff like that. So I have people doing that. But when it comes to like the marketing and the editing, the sound, the video and stuff like that, it's like a one person kind of thing. So when you have a person with like an idea and you're essentially mostly doing it alone, what is your
Hmm.
advice to me or to anyone listening to us that is trying to do the same thing?
Start and do it. Don't be overly put off by the complexities of it. Don't get caught up with I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do this because none of that's actually true. You need a webcam and an internet connection and start. Because even if it is like super grimy, I think the one thing that is definitely important is people need to be able to hear you. There was
Mm-hmm.
a big survey that was done lately, that Wizards of the Coast did, and they released the findings to a lot of us in the streaming community,
Mm-hmm.
about just what people like and why they watch and all that stuff. And one of the things was the number one thing that is important to you on a stream, or it might have been phrased in the negative, like what's the first thing that will make you turn something off? And it was poor sound quality. Like
Yeah.
people would put up with not even being able to see you well if they can hear you, because then a lot of people just listen and aren't watching anyway. But beyond that, yeah, just do it. Even if it's just plug in the tiniest little webcam and start. Because in many ways that will be quaint, and in many ways it'll make a person feel like they're really there at the table with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Second to that, I would say decide in advance what your brand is going to be. Um, because the show needs to be what it is, and it needs to stay internally consistent with what it is. Um, Even though uh, we did our D&D show, and it was nothing like Critical Role, even though we're still playing the same show. I
Mm-hmm.
think you need to decide in advance if you're going to do things like, are you going to break character? Um, like I think what sets streaming apart from regular tabletop is when you're playing at home, when you're playing in a home game, it is a social activity. The
Yes.
sitting down and talking about work, talking about your girlfriend, a movie that's coming out, a book you read, that's all part of the fun.
Mm-hmm.
Streaming is you cut all that out of it. Like every extraneous detail is removed. Um, so even if there's still room for the odd, that's what she said, ha ha ha, if that's the tone of your game. But you
Yes.
need to decide if it is. Because like vampires, not. If you notice, once we sit down, when we're there, when the camera comes on, it's Victor, Nellie, Annabelle, and Jasper the
Yes.
entire time. You know,
Good.
not counting the odd giggle. I mean, we are in. Um, there's definitely room for games that it is a little looser. Obviously, CR is looser than that.
Yeah.
But you have to decide what it's going to be so you can stick with it. Then after that, I would say consistency. Even if you are doing, the smallest game that you're streaming off of a cell phone,
Yeah.
once you start forming expectations in the minds of the audience, you have to meet them. If you say we're streaming every Sunday at noon, you have to stream Sunday at noon.
Yeah.
I mean, there will always be unforeseen acts of God, of course. If the power's out, you can't help that. If you get the flu, you can't help that. But I mean, 95% of the time, you have to do what people are expecting you to do because that's how you form that relationship with them, which leads to the very last thing in my ramble here, which is that relationships. Even as you're starting off, you might only have 3 people watching, but talk to them, you know, talk to them, interact with them, let them know that you appreciate that they're watching, you appreciate what they're doing, because that's how you get your evangelists, because they start feeling like they're a part of the story. They start feeling like that's the whole thing with the hashtag family, that
Yes.
it's something you can be a part of. Because when you feel like you're a part of it, then you give a damn. That's why people want to self-identify as critters,
Yes.
because they're a part of something. And then now they're taking this journey together with you.
Of course. Yeah.
And yeah, and that's what causes people to become emotionally engaged with something rather than just kind of watching it happen like idly.
Yeah. That's some really really good advice there. That's really really good.
I'm like, I can rant more. I will tell you that just your streams that you do right now, are they English language or are they Cambodian?
Their English language, yeah. Their
Mm.
English
Well,
language. This is it would be great to have like more Khmer people on, and we actually we had a Khmer college student who wanted to join some of the games like early on, but the poor guy, he's like, I believe he's studying to be a doctor or something, and
yeah.
he never could do the times, so it was just a hassle. But,
I mean, this might be tough, but I would say if your vision is bringing this to the country,
yeah,
then you've got to show it like in the easiest way for the people to understand. Like you've got to have, I definitely in the Cambodian language at least, ideally with some people also, because that will help bridge that gap to helping them understand. Because if it's
Yes.
I mean, even though you can have your cultural illusions and things like that, which of course all significant, and the stories are set in places with circumstances that they understand, but
Yes.
uh if it is a total English language stream, especially if it's set somewhere like D&D or the Forgotten Realms, that's not that much different than them watching literally anything else,
Yeah.
so you need to make it as like custom and unique to them as possible, you know.
For sure. Yeah, I'm hoping that our new vampire show will at least get some of that out there. Being set in the city, if they can hear some things like, "Oh, I know this place, I know that thing," it's hopefully
Yep.
will catch some attention. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the Blood on the Thames is doing that. There's a Twin Cities by Night is doing that. I mean that's a very valid angle to take with trying to reach out and already be doing this. Of course. Wait, did we freeze? Okay, we got you back. Sorry.
Yeah, we're good.
You may well already be doing this, but start also participating in other fandoms that are there. Like you said, those cosplayers, there's cosplayers.
Yes.
Interact with the cosplayers a lot. Interact with the comic book kids a lot.
Okay, we froze for a second.
Interact with the Oh, did you hear me there?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're back.
I said interact with those other geek communities. Interact with the cosplayers a lot. Interact with the comic book kids a lot. Interact with the board game kids a lot. Like you
Yes.
said, that puzzle room thing. Um, Even if you're like, can we just play our game here once a week? You know, like
Yes.
you don't even have to sign anybody up. You don't have to like do anything. If you're just there doing it, people will come by and be like,
Oh, what are you doing?
you know, yeah, what's that they're doing? Is that Dungeons and Dragons? Oh, I've been dying to find a group to play Dungeons and
Yeah.
Dragons. That's how you launch your Adventurers League. You
Sure.
peel it into that sense of curiosity. Like I said, it's not the open door that gets people; it's the locked one. You know,
Mm,
um, that's what makes them want to feel like they're on the other side of the rope, that they're in on the secret, and then you get them. Boom.
for sure. All right. Well, um, that was a really, really fun interview. It's really enjoyable talking to you, man. Thank you very much for doing this.
I appreciate you having me on. Again, I apologize for my sniffle. I tried to mute to the best of my ability, but there was times that my nose just wouldn't cooperate. But I will tell you this, more than anything, I acknowledge you for having taken the step of just starting. Starting's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Starting's the hardest part. Everything else is just details.
Nice. Well, just to remind everybody before we end off today, where can we find you? What are your hashtags? What are your social media things?
I'm at B Dave Walters everywhere. I'm on a little show called Vampire the Masquerade LA by Night. We just wrapped season 2. Our next show, oh well, we have the epilogues are coming out every Friday. This past Friday was my epilogue, and then we have different ones every week for the next 3 weeks. Then after that, we're doing the live show at WonderCon, which might be a bit of a commute for you. But if a person's coming to WonderCon, please come check us out. I have a little comic book dropping this Wednesday, Dungeons and Dragons: Dark and Wish, with Tess Fowler and myself. We will also be doing signings at WonderCon, which is bananas. And otherwise, yeah, hit me up on the socials anytime. B Dave Walters.
Fantastic. And yeah, so this was recording just in case you're wondering the name of the show. Decided on calling the show previously on tomorrow. Sounds kind of cheesy and a little bit confusing, which I like.
I love it. Well, you're
um,
ahead of me in time zone, so it works.
yeah. So this was episode 1 of our chat on previously on tomorrow. We are hosted by Dice Nerds and Nagas, and if you are into Vampire the Masquerade played in Cambodia, please check out the Kingdom of Wonder Vampire the Masquerade podcast, and we also have a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. It's all up on Dice Nerds and Nagas. So Thank you very much, B. Dave Walters. A pleasure. And yeah, if any of the other casts feel like coming on, please pass your pass your suggestions on. It would be great to talk to some other people.
Absolutely. I'll make sure they know. And although the problem with having me on for episode 1 is now innately there's nowhere to go but down. It's a problem. Started too high. You started too high.
This is unfortunately true.
Also, that's why I play a Venture.
Excellent. All right, man. Really good talking to you. Have a good early morning for you.
Absolutely. You have a good one.
All right. Bye.